Slide aside, rice cooker. We will not be needing you today. You can absolutely make great, fluffy, beautiful white rice without a rice cooker. You just need to know a few details, which is why you clicked on this video. Now let's go! Now, most of the time when I'm eating rice, I'm just buying jasmine rice. It's my go-to, if you will. It's my bread and butter of the rice world. I just love it. It's fluffy, it's delicious. I think it has a better flavor than basmati rice. And so if you look on the back of this package right here, it gives you a ratio of 1 cup of rice to 1.5 cups of water, which is pretty good. It's better than that 2 to 1 recommendation you may find online, but it's still a little bit too much water, which I will explain, but first we need to wash the rice. Now you're gonna wanna grab yourself a pot, obviously. I like one that's a tiny bit smaller than this. I actually don't have one right now that size, but this will be fine. You just have to remember that the rice is gonna triple in size when you cook it. So if I were to be using a pot like this, and I'm doing 2 cups of rice, I would really be cutting it close. In fact, I think that would just not work. It's just too small, right? So just keep that in mind. And so I'm just gonna measure out my 2 cups of rice, 1 and 2. And whenever I'm working with rice, I always like to inspect it. Meaning what, Sonny? Meaning, and especially if it's a new brand I haven't worked with, I'm trying to see how many of these grains are broken. And I'll especially do this if I'm making sushi rice, but I see here, broken, broken. I'm just trying to find out the quality of this rice, see how it was handled, right? Now, on to washing the rice. What we want here is just room temperature water, not warm, not super cold either. And this is really probably the most important part of making rice at home in a pot, because if you don't do this, you're gonna end up with really, really sticky rice that clumps together. And what we want is nice, light, and fluffy rice, not sticky rice. There are certain dishes that call for sticky rice, like sticky rice, but this is not one of them. We're just making nice rice that you would have with any curry or whatever. And so what I like to do, as you can see, is I just put a little bit of water in the pot. And so I'm just gently mixing with my fingers here. And this is making the rice rub against all the other grains and kind of grinding off some of that starch. And then what I'll do is just fill more water in. And you can see, look how milky this rice is, right? So we fill up with a little bit of water and then we just drain that out. But again, we just leave a little bit of water in the bottom and we just repeat that same process. So mixing this rice gently with my fingertips, helping to release all that starch. Now, fill it up again, and again, remove the water. We basically wash this out 3 times. You don't want to really do it much more than that. 3 times is usually perfect. So one more time, same deal. So there's our rice. Now, as the company recommends 1 cup of rice to 1.5 cups of water, I recommend a little less. So for every 1 cup of rice, we're doing 1.25 cup of water. Seeing as how we're doing 2 cups of rice, we need 2.5 cups of water. Okay, and in with our water. Now, some people may be asking, why not just do this little finger trick? So for the knuckle trick, you would have the water come up to this first crease in your finger. Although for me, that's also too much water. What I say is half of that crease, which is usually the top of my nail. And that does work really well, but we are not doing that method. Because what if you have some kind of super finger? Not saying my finger is super, but there are people out there. The supers are among us, and some of them have super fingers. The point is everybody's hands are different, which is why I understand when people have a problem with that trick. Now let's pop the lid on our rice and let me show you one more fantastic thing you can do for cooking rice at home in a pot. And that is to take a nice big piece of tin foil, and we take this thing and we just keep folding it this way. You can obviously reuse this tin foil after. I try not to use tin foil too much. Not a huge fan of it, but it works great for this. And we fold it one more time, like so. Pinch it all the way around the pot, where the pot meets the lid. And what we're doing here is trying to create a situation where steam is not escaping so easily. Looks like I needed a little bit more foil there. Whoops, I thought I had a huge enough piece, but that's all right, that's enough. You do want it to go all the way around if you can, but it's okay. And so this is really gonna help keep the steam inside the pot, cooking the rice where it belongs. If you have a loosely fitting lid, a lot more water is gonna escape and your rice might end up drying out and sticking to the bottom and getting a little crunchy, and we don't want that. On a side note here, my friends, if you're not planning on putting the tin foil around the seal of the pot, then I would recommend you go with 1 cup of rice to 1 1/3 cup of water, as opposed to 1 1/4 cup of water. This is just to make sure that that rice doesn't dry out and burn and stick to the bottom of your pan. Now, pot goes on the stove. We turn the heat on to high. Come on, you, there we go. So this cooking method I'm about to go over, I've used so many times and it always works for me. Now, when you start to see some steam coming out from around the edges, it means it's come to a boil. And at this point, we're gonna turn the heat all the way down to low. We need to set a timer for 10 minutes exactly. All right, when that timer has gone off, shut up. we turn the heat off. And also, I would actually recommend getting it away from that burner it was cooked on. If you hold your hand above there, you will feel all the heat still emanating off that metal. There is a lot of residual heat coming off, so you want to get it away from there so it doesn't keep cooking too much. And then we set another 10-minute timer. And so as that 10 minutes is counting down, this rice is sitting here and continuing to steam and cook. All right, our second 10-minute timer has gone off. So again, that's 3 to 5 minutes to get to the boil, depending on how strong your burners are. Then 10 minutes on low heat, followed by 10 minutes steaming off the heat entirely. That's my process for cooking rice at home in a pot. Now, we can peel it off. And like I said, you can definitely unwrap this tin foil easily and just use that for other stuff, which is what I'm gonna do. And voila. Whoo! Looks very nice here. Let's just go ahead and fluff it up a little bit. Wow, that is, I think you can see, right, just how fluffy and nice this rice is. That technique has worked very well. You can see how each grain is nice and fluffy. It's not gloopy or globby at all. It's just really light and nice. And I tend to judge rice just by how it feels in my mouth as well. When you can feel every single grain of rice, meaning it makes sense in your mouth that it's all individual. It's not like one globby mess. Now, if you're new around here, when we make food, we attack the fridge. And although plain white rice isn't exactly tasty, my audience still needs to see it, okay? And so do I, quite frankly. This would be a lot cooler if I knew how to use these. Now let me leave you with one last thing. The reason I have a $200 rice cooker, not that you need one that costs that much, but it's never gonna forget to turn up the heat, turn down the heat, and turn off the heat, which is what rice cookers do. Whereas us as humans, we love our mistakes. And so really the benefit of getting a rice cooker is you'll have perfect rice every single time, no matter what, and you don't have to think about it. Whereas on the stove, of course, anything can happen. If you're still watching the video, you are a true friend. Make sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment if you so wish, and turn on notifications if you want to be a psycho. And until next time, you know I love you and I'm out.